Zealand's newly formed coalition government's made its first move. It's axing its world-leading smoking ban to fund tax cuts. The country's new Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, the leader of the centre-right National Party, agreed a three-way coalition agreement with the leaders of the New Zealand First Party, Winston Peters, and the ACT Party, David Seymour, on Thursday. As part of concessions, New Zealand First said it would stop a foreign home buyers tax and find cuts elsewhere. The legislation, introduced under the previous Jacinda Ardern-led government, would have banned cigarette sales next year to anyone born after 2008. Smoking's the leading cause of preventable deaths in New Zealand, and the policy had aimed to stop young generations from picking up the habit. Health experts have strongly criticised the sudden reversal. Well, to go through all of that, we can join our correspondent Phil Mercer, who's watching events from Sydney for us. First of all, let's talk about this huge policy reversal. It was only a few weeks ago here in the UK. People were looking at New Zealand as an example of a successful smoking ban working, and now we're hearing this.
Well, New Zealand's law was a bit of landmark legislation that was due to have attempted to phase out smoking for future generations. The measures were due to come into force in the middle of next year. But what we have now is New Zealand's new centre-right coalition government getting straight to work to repeal this legislation. Essentially, the law is being scrapped to help fund tax cuts. And those cuts to personal income tax were a key part in the promises made by the National Party that secured the largest share of the vote after the election in New Zealand in the middle of October. So quite clearly, politics and election promises coming to the fore. However, medical practitioners and many doctors believe that this ban on or this reversal of this tough smoking legislation is counterproductive measures, will disadvantage Maori Indigenous communities disproportionately and potentially cost thousands of lives.
And tell us about this new government and indeed the new Prime Minister. I mean, it marks a shift to the right for New Zealand politics from the tenure of Jacinda Ardern.
Jacinda Ardern came to power in 2017 and her Labour Party governed for 6 years. Earlier this year, Jacinda Ardern stepped down. She was replaced by a man called Chris Hipkins. He led the Labour Party into that October election, and things went pretty badly for Labour at the polls. And what we've had is 45 days since that election, and the National Party has been in negotiation with two minor parties to form a coalition government. So what we have now is the Nationals under Chris Luxon, he's the new Prime Minister, have gone into partnership with the Libertarian ACT New Zealand Party and the populist New Zealand First Party. So I think what we're seeing now with the repeal of those tough anti-smoking measures is an indication as to how this government or what direction this government will now go. It was making the cost of living a key part of its election promises, and it's scrapping the tobacco laws in order to pay for tax cuts. So this could well be the start of the new government dismantling many, if not quite a few, of the former policies of the outgoing Labour government.
Fascinating stuff. Phil Mercer, watching events in New Zealand from Sydney. Thank you very much for the moment.